My name is Jacob Johns. I am an artist who lives in Spokane, Washington, and I have a 5-year-old daughter named Lily who is the love of my life. My mom lives in the Tri-Cities. My dad lives in the Phoenix area. My brother lives in Umatilla. And so we're all kind of scattered about, but I live in Spokane so that I can be close to my daughter. Yeah, so just a little bit about me and my background. I was born and raised in Arizona, and I spent a lot of time there. I'm a Hopi and Anakamaatam from Arizona. I'm part Irish too, so let's not forget that. And, I think that my background, I touch into my indigenous side a lot more than maybe the Irish side, because we're so inundated with the culture that it's sort of forced upon us. So like any sort of recognition of that cultural heritage that's slightly dying out needs to be celebrated and shared and embraced, otherwise it will have gone forever. So it's not choosing one side or the other, it's just like that realization of that. And so a lot of my work comes from that cultural upbringing, but I did learn how to do more realistic drawings and things like that directly from my mom, who is not, doesn't really have that cultural background, but she, it's a nice combination. And so growing up in Arizona and spending a lot of time there, it really helped sort of make me the person who I am. I ended up serving some time there in Arizona for about 8 years for assaulting a police officer. And after I left prison, I paroled up to Washington State in order to just step away from the Arizona sort of police state that it is, and come to Spokane, where it was a little bit more. So I've been living here for the past 6 years. And I think that there's a lot of potential here within Spokane, because the Phoenix area is such a big, large place. I mean, it's bigger than LA. It's like, I guess it's in comparison to LA, how it's just urban sprawl. And so there's a lot of people it's a big melting pot. A lot of people coming from around the country to formulate this sort of weird thing. And people in Spokane and Washington State, I think, in general, are fairly nice, and it really helps to open doors when you are approachable as another human being, compared to like a bigger city. People respond to you like a stranger would, like you're a threat to them consistently, so you don't talk to people. But in Spokane, it's not that way. You're able to open dialogue with complete strangers, and that itself, I think, allows me as an artist to sort of network and just make connections with people and try to show that similar human quality that we all contain. And people will look at me from the outside appearance as being, like a long-haired Indian and stuff, and so they really, I think, want to have some sort of thing, like I bought this Indian thing from an Indian, but if I do something that's not related to indigenous, it doesn't sell very well, unless it's like a spot-on, realistic portraiture or something along those lines. I got started in doing art through my parents. My parents, both of them were artists. You know, they both still are. I suppose my mom was a portraiture artist, and so she really focused on doing faces and doing faces well. And my father is, you know, he's from his indigenous background, did a lot of indigenous stuff. And they met in art classes, and they lived across the street from each other. So growing up, they were always doing artistic stuff. I mean, drawing, coloring, painting. Like we would go out into the desert in Arizona, and there's petroglyphs everywhere. So we would go out and we would do rubbings of or etchings of the petroglyphs, and then take them back. So we had a whole series of we would compare them, look at this one, it's really cool. But all these indigenous symbols were all over the place all the time, and you know, I think a lot of that symmetry, that specific southwestern style design, it's very, very specific geometric shapes that are like a mixture of curvature and hard lines, and a lot of that still I think comes out in a lot of my work, where you see how there's curvature, but there's also a hardness within it. Sometime I was in ceremony, we were doing peyote, we had a peyote meeting, and when the peyote started to come in, it was like everything that was a straight line curved, and then everything that was curved straightened, and it would fluctuate back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, until it put me into a trance. And when I was it gave me like a weird sense of things, like not everything can fluctuate back and forth, and so you see a lot of that stuff inside of my work, where it's like this back and forth, where your eyes don't get so bored with the lines, and your eyes consistently try to find something new, and it brings you back to the same point, but from a different perspective of what you're witnessing. Yeah, so this was a series I did of these three-dimensional pieces. They were like, you know, I wanted to do a paradigm shift, or it was a three-dimensional object that switched back between two-dimensional and three-dimensional. And so as a graffiti artist, as a kid growing up, I used to really, you know, look up to people who could do three-dimensional stuff. So any sort of three-dimensional new shape or anything like that was really, really cool. And I could totally do it. You could do it with you know, a two-dimensional drawing or painting or whatever, and you can create the three-dimensional illusion. But what I really wanted to do was take that concept and make it a reality. And so I wanted to do these things where no matter, depending on how you look at the piece, then your eyes never get bored. You know, I think a lot of times when I do stuff, my eyes get bored, or if I look at some art, I just get bored after a while, you know. And I think as someone who suffers from maybe a slight amount of attention deficit disorder, I think I need to consistently try to reevaluate what I'm looking at from different perspectives consistently, you know. And this one was something at first I didn't really like it, but then as I've had it in my house, I just really can't get over it. And I critique myself often when I look at I could have gone in a little bit smoother here, I could have gone in a little bit better. But ultimately, it was the first time I had an art show, solo art exhibition, was at the University of Washington. So I made a series of these, and I really like it. I was doing a lot of work with meditations and focusing on different colors, and hoping we call them different worlds, but it's the way your consciousness sits in different frequencies. And so this itself was talking about how the red itself is your primal color, and it's the first world. It's just primal, you know. That's where your anger and all these things come from, all these primal instincts, and it counteracts with blue, which is a logic. If logic and primal things are forced together, then, you know, logically, if you can't be angry all the time, you know, and you can't be primal all the time, you have to eventually pull yourself out of it and think from a logical standpoint. And I think the more that you can calm your inner primal urges to be quick and angry, or whatever it is that it might be, then logically you can pull yourself up to be like, hey, listen, now is not the time to be primal, now is not the time to be angry. And the combinations of using that primal energy and logic, I think, forces us into thinking from a higher standpoint. And I think that combination of both logic and primal, even if you look at it in the color scale, you know, red and blue, they make purple, and the purple is like, you know, the highest energy that you can go to. When you talk about people as being different colors because this person's angry or this person's logical, this person's giving, or whatever it might be. But purple itself is like inspiration. You know, it's creation itself. It's like an omnipresent sense of what is. And I just wanted to show that on a combination. So the combination of red and blue create the purple, which is ideally what we want to strive for as a human being. So it's just 111. My little brother, when we were younger, he ended up taking his own life. He hung himself, and you know, we found him and tried to bring him back to life and stuff, and he ended up dying in the hospital. And after he died, you know, there was everybody was very distraught. My mom was out of town. She was burying her grandma, and he ended up hanging himself. We got in a fight. He hung himself in the bedroom. I went to go check on him to see if he went to work or went to school, and he had hung himself. We tried to give him CPR and stuff. It was a really hard time for me and all of us in the family. And this dream was had where he was crying. He's holding this little black book, and so it was a Bible. It was a little black book that he was crying and holding. It was so realistic. I think it was a cousin. Somebody else had the dream, and so they told me the dream, and they wanted to tell my mom, but they were afraid to. She was in such dire straits, and so I told her, ended up telling her, and she was at a Catholic bookstore. She was raised Roman Catholic, and she was trying to find some sort of answers to all the questions, and she opened up a little book that she saw in the store, at the Catholic bookstore. And she looked down, and there was a book just like the one that was described in the dream. So she picked it up, and it was a Bible, and the Bible itself was bookmarked how they are with ribbons. And the ribbon opened up, the ribbon marked page opened up to Isaiah 11:1, which reads, "From the stump of Jesse a bud shall blossom." And Jesse was my little brother's name. It's on his gravestone today. And so, you know, with the idea of it being 11:1, I didn't want it to be, you know, a repeat of the same thing. And so I went from 111, and then I started seeing it, like, you know, how do you reverse that? And I started seeing 111 everywhere. It was like, you know, I had $111. I stopped a YouTube video. It was at 1 minute 11 seconds. You know, it was a basketball game score was 111. It was everywhere. Looking at the clock every single time. It was boom, 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 boom. And so I took it as a sign that my little brother was with me. He's like, oh, yeah, he's totally with me all the time, you know. And it was like, it was becoming so everywhere that it really was like something that was surreal, you know. And then afterwards, I started to do a little bit more walking meditation or waking meditations, because I kept seeing symbols or patterns reduplicate themselves over and over and over and over again. And you would see it. It's got to be something, right? You can see the same thing over and over and over again in different forms, but it's the same thing, same pattern. And so I started looking into it, and in numerology, which is study of numbers and the patternization of the universe, trying to make sense out of chaos, the number sequence 111 or 1111, which was also very common from my perspective, kept popping up. And that itself in numerology is supposed to mean that whenever you see that number sequence 111 or 1111, then it's a snapshot. The universe is basically taking a snapshot of your thoughts. And whatever you were thinking at that specific moment in time, the universe has taken a snapshot of it, and that's what you're creating. And you're almost manifesting that into reality at lightning fast speeds. And so what you have to do is be very, very conscious of of where your thoughts are revolving around at all times, because whatever you're thinking on, you're focusing your thoughts on, that's what the universe is creating for you. So it's very important for you to focus your thoughts on what it is that you want to do, and what you want to have and what you want to be, and focus only on that, no matter what else is going on, despite everything, to focus on that which you desire. That way that can be manifested. Otherwise you'll be creating nothing but chaos into your life. And so it's a walking meditation. So I have it tattooed on me, 111, so I can never forget. And I started to do some work on for families who are dealing with the loss of a loved one. I know from my own personal experience how much trauma it took for, families who are just, it's an epidemic in Native American society, where it's like, the numbers are like, you're like 347% more likely to kill yourself over the rest of the general population. And so there's all these families that are dealing with turmoil. And I went to like survivors of suicide meetings, but it was just a venting process. There was no completion. It was just letting out the pain. There was no trying to overcome transcendence, something like this. I started working on it, and I started doing these things under the name of Project 111, which is an aim to help us get together. So Project 111 is something that I switched over. I started doing here. I was doing Studio 111, but the number itself still repeats on a regular basis. It comes to happen all the time. Like, it happens still to this day on a regular basis, and it's only when I'm thinking a thought, whenever I see the number sequences, I look and I try to, what was I just thinking when I saw that? I was doing some supply runs out to Standing Rock. We were doing not only just supply runs, we were doing people runs too, just for us to bringing people from the local area to the camp in order to help take part in the direct actions against the pipeline that was going to be constructed there. And fourth time I went out, it was in the middle of the winter, and a friend of mine who came out from Portland, she was out there with me. It was just us two, both of us, and we woke up in the early morning, and I was trying to catch get a time lapse of the sun rising, but you couldn't see it because there were snow clouds all over the place. I ended up not getting anything, and then there was a bunch of horses that were out there that just sort of came in out of nowhere, and they were just checking, just cruising around. They weren't doing anything. I don't know if they were loose or if it was just some sort of Lakota thing, but it was really a magical moment in time. I had a bunch of footage from them because they were so beautiful, especially out there in the middle of the winter in the snow-crusted camp where teepees had been setting up, and there was a thin layer of smoke, and there was all these water protectors out there. I wanted to do a picture or do an homage to them, and so I took this video. This took me about 3 months, I think, to do it, and I really love it because I spent so much time in it. You can tell here, like, once again, it's like, your eyes don't get bored, and there's not really a straight line, but there's a curvature, which gives the impression of straight lines. I mean, there's some straight lines in there that really help to accent it, but it's pushed back with the gradation. So I wanted to go back through with different colors and just go back through and create the impression of a straight line, but not really, because if you get close enough to it, it's just like a mixture of these colors. And I spent about 3 months doing this one, and I love it. I spent so much time on it, and every day, I don't watch TV, and every day I would come home and I would just look at it, and I would maybe put 1 or 2 marks on it, and then just sit back and stare at it for a bit. And so this one's called a water protector. You can see the horse here is mixed with the warrior. And his eyeballs aren't really you can't really see his eyeballs because it's not up to him. He's not the one in charge. It's the horse that's leading him, and so that's why his eyes are not this, and he's only being able to see because him and the horse are one. Oh hey, oh yeah, to oh hey, oh yeah, to oh hey, oh yeah, to come and call your quê nhồi nhồi bom, come go ya hồi em. Oh hey, oh one yeah to kem. Oh hey, oh one yeah to kem. Oh hey, oh one yeah to kem.
Ikamako Yahweh, a quick question, yo, Ivan, Ikamako Yahweh. Oh, hey, I want you to again. Oh, hey, I want you to again. Oh, hey, I want you to again. Ikamako Yahweh, a quick question, yo, Ivan, Ikamako Yahweh. Oh, hey, I want you to again. Oh, hey, I want you to again. Oh, hey, I want you to again. Hey, come on, call Yahweh. A quick question, you, Ivan. Hey, come on, call Yahweh. Oh, hey, I want you to again. Hey, I want you to again. Oh, hey, I want you to again.
Yes, the significance of this tattoo is it's the symbol for the planet Earth. When we think about a fourth level of consciousness, when we think from our hearts that we are all connected to a child, like its mother, or like we're all connected to our planet like a child that's in utero with its mother, that we're all connected to each other because we're all on the same planet. So that global thought process stops you from seeing other human beings being separate from yourself, which is it's a common sense thing because we're all on the same planet. And we should probably be caring about each other because we are one, regardless of how we imagine it to be. Yeah, so this is a long hair kachina. It's a Hopi kachina. And I spent a lot of time, but I did this one the first time for my first art show. I had about a year to prepare for it, and I continued to make more. And whenever I would get money, I would spend it all on art supplies. And I really love this one, just the way it feels, because it's so like, you know, it's impressionistic, but it's like free flowing, and it's also like super. It's like realistic but impressionistic, and I really love just the vibe of the energy of it. And I remember having this on my wall. I painted it on the wall, and I would just randomly splash at it, you know, and sit back and stare at it. And I would fall asleep looking at it. It was just on the wall. And in Hopi, when you die, you return back to the unity that we all stem from. In, you know, traditionally they'll cut you and bury you facing the sun and in a fetal position, you know, and when the rain comes down and the sun comes out, your soul goes back up and you become a rain cloud. So whenever you see a rain cloud, you know, those are all your ancestors, because water is life, you know, and if your heart is at one with the universe, then, you know, the universe will provide. It's just like a bird wakes up and doesn't worry about paying bills or whatever. It just goes out and gets food because the universe provides. And, you know, Hopis are farmers. And, you know, in the middle of a desert, the only way to farm is by getting rain. And so every ceremony that we do is to get rain. And if your heart is pure and at one with the universe, then you can manifest water because your ancestors are hearing your prayers, you know. And so this long hair Kachina, you can see him, he's making a prayer, shouting out to the chaos that is, and his prayers are being answered because they're coming down in the form of rain, that his ancestors are hearing the call for life. Yeah, so this is the way the Kachinas look. The colors are varied around the face mask. Yeah, so this flag, is the Aboriginal people's flag from Australia. They're denied their sovereignty by the Australian government, and so they've had so much cultural genocide over there in Australia with the indigenous people, the Aborigines, that they're striving for their own recognition within their own country. And it wasn't until the 70s that they were recognized as actually being people. And there's so much, they suffer from the same indigenous problems that a lot of indigenous people come, where they're, being colonized and their homelands are being raped and their water is being polluted. And so they're struggling for recognition within Australia, and all the tribes have band together to try to strive for sovereignty, and this is their flag. I went on our road to Standing Rock. On the last day, they had a flag road, and all the tribes that had supported them, where they had a whole row. There's hundreds of flags from all these different tribes around the country, and I contacted the Aboriginal people over a Facebook group or something and say, hey, listen, where can I get those flags? I want to flag it at my camp, because I understand you guys, understand our struggles are the same, And on the last day in Oceti, they had removed all the flags from all the different tribes, but there was one flag that was left, and it was right by the north gate. And I looked over it, it was this flag. And the cops were getting ready to raid, they were getting ready to raid. And so I went over there and I said, well, we got to get that flag. But there was like cops, and there's like maybe 30 Humvees over there. They got helicopters flying around. People are burning stuff all over the place. It's like a real war zone. And so I saw the flag over there, and it was right at the north gate, man, right at the front. And the cops are like maybe 30 feet away. And down here, there's some diehards who are refusing to leave. And they're like, and so we snuck over there. I just walked over, trying to sneak over there and not get shot or whatever. And this thing was on a TV pole, man. It was way the hell up there. It was buried in the ground. Like, this much is frozen ground. So we're trying to get it down. And as soon as we got that flag down, they started to raid the camp. So we started running back. But I did get the flag, and I brought it home. You can smell it still. Well, I guess it doesn't smell like it anymore, but it used to smell like camp. And so that's the story of this one. Yeah, so this is one time I was younger in a wild time, and I OD'd on a bunch of, I don't know, it was a bunch of ecstasy or something. I don't know, it was late, it wasn't really ecstasy, it was something, but I OD'd and I died, and my life flashed before my eyes. Except it not only did it flash everything that had already happened, but everything that was going to happen flashed forward too. And their voices on the other side told me that if you don't go back to life, then you'll never be able to make this piece. And they showed me the piece, and I came back to life, and I made this, and I saw this in my vision, and this is the first one I did. I saw this in my vision when I died. I came back to life specifically to make this piece, because it was something that has never been done before, and the freedom of it and the flow And it was supposed to, once again, trying to represent the stuff. The same one, you can see it's like, red and blue mixed together to make purple, and it's like coming in, and then over here it's like organized chaos that logically you need to control your emotions. Over here there's so much chaos. You got your your primals in there with your yellows and your greens. There's some purple in there too, but I mean that's just on the top, but it's so much chaos. And so out of the green you come into blue, you force yourself into think logically, and logic itself, you see here, comes around and it points the way. That logic is the only thing that's going to get us out of that emotional chaos that keeps us confused. A long time ago when I was a little boy, I dreamt that I was this woman. And I was running with this baby, running, and something was chasing after me. Something's chasing after me. And I was so scared, I was so frightened for my child. And then something hit me from the back, and my baby flew out of my hands, and landed in front of me as I fell down. And a horse was chasing us and stepped on my baby, killing my baby. It was so graphic at 8 years old. And it was so incredibly graphic because the horse's foot stepped on the head, and when I rolled, I was bleeding out. I couldn't move, and when I rolled over, and I looked up, and it was a U.S. cavalryman who shot me. And I had that same dream over and over again for a week straight, and it was so graphic, man. I was like, oh, it really messed with me, especially at being such a young age. And then years later, about 20 years later, I come to Spokane, and I was driving around just checking stuff out, out off in the distance, out the side of city limits, just around. And there was a place that I came across. I'm at the Unitarian Church, and this guy comes up to me, who's older guy, and he's like, I got the bucket right here, and I got the shovel that we need you to go fill in that hole that you burnt in our thing. I was like, all right, fine, whatever. So I scooped up. It was a bunch of ashes that I used from a ceremony. That ceremony was aimed at healing each other and healing the land. And I really wanted to do. I did it as an homage to that past life that nobody remembers except for myself. And I took the ashes down to where he directed me to put them. In the trees right there was a totem pole. I noticed the totem pole, and so I started dumping the ashes right where he wanted me to. And as I got closer to the totem pole, I looked down and I seen that a red-tailed hawk had died right there. There was no evidence of the head or anything like that, but there was the body, and you could tell the bugs had eaten away all the flesh, and all that was left was the tail and the fin and all the wing feathers. And it was like the land was thanking me for holding ceremony with the intention of freeing negative energy from that area. And I wanted to do an homage to that red-tailed hawk. And you can see here I split it into two. So there's a realistic part, and it's black with colors coming off of it. But on the other side was this duality where it's like, it's still got the basic shape of it to continue to make it look even, but the colors themselves, it's a duality of it, a mixing of the past and a past concept and the future or the present reality, and it was a nice blending to complete the circle.
Sunshine feels fine when it's all raining, when it's all running away, sunshine feels fine when it's all I need, when it's all we need.
Yeah, so I've been trying. You know, I think that my budget really defines what it is I use for for working. Like, as you see here, this is really decent watercolor paper that I got from the art store. So it's like maybe $10 a sheet or something like that. But it does really well. This is all pen, and then I lick it and smear it in order to create that shadow effect. So I started off with all pen, and then I used the watercolor on top of it to go through. But some of the stuff is some of the stuff is canvas. So this canvas here I made myself, and I repurposed it with a primer, just because canvases are kind of expensive, you know, and they're really hard to get through. I made this myself out of raw canvas in the back, and so, you know, I try to work with whatever it is I have. You know, growing up, we used to sing songs all the time. You know, that was the thing. But I ended up spending some time incarcerated for about 8 years, and when I was locked up, we would sing songs. And so it was basically the only thing that we had to do, you know, was sing songs, draw, work out, and fight. That's it, you know. And so, you know, I learned a lot of songs in prison, and really doing a lot of other work, you know, following for my own traditions. I really liked feeling, especially in groups of people who were singing the same song. It sounds really good, you know. And there was a medicine man who came through. I guess he was just a road man, but he came to present, and through networking of people, they asked me if I would open up for him and you know, do all this stuff, and I said yeah, I totally would. And so I opened up for him, and I sang a song welcoming him to the area, and Gary Edwards was in the audience and asked me, hey, would you be interested in creating a CD? And I said yeah. So over a course of, I don't know, maybe 3 months, we recorded an album, track by track. And when we were going to Standing Rock, a friend of mine was driving from Portland, and she had a truck full of stuff, supplies and stuff for camp. And when she was driving there, she hit a deer, and she went to camp, dropped everything off, and then drove another hour back to pick up the body. Took the body, drove it another hour back to camp, got to camp, butchered it, skinned it, gave all the meat to the elders, made soup with the bones, and then took the hide and dried it out and gave it to me, and I made this drum. So open your way, once ancora pecima, vamos seringa voi kukolo, atono toma, oh no esse toma, once ancora pecima. So open your way, once ancora pecima. Vamos seringa voi kukolo, atono toma, oh no esse toma, once ancora pecima. So open your way, once ancora pecima. Vamos seringa voi kukolo, atono toma, oh no esse toma, once ancora pecima. So open your way, once ancora pecima. Vamos seringa voi kukolo, oh no esse toma, once ancora pecima. So open your way, once ancora pecima. Vamos seringa voi kukolo. When I was a little boy in Arizona, there was a tribe called the Yavapai Apache near Fort McDowell, and they had a bingo hall. This is in the early 90s. They wanted to have like full-size casino games like Las Vegas, you know, slot machines and stuff, and they ordered a bunch of them from Laughlin, and the FBI told them that they couldn't do it, and they tried to block it and confiscate all the machines, but they were on the reservation. The FBI had no authority there, and so there was this huge stink, and so all these tribal members got together, and it was like an intertribal coalition of people who just came and formed a human chain around the machines that the government was trying to confiscate. And so we, as little boys, we went down there and sat on the line, and I remember having such a good time. There's all these Indians doing all this stuff, but you know, right off in the distance here was a bunch of armed FBI agents and ATF that were trying to prevent the sovereign nation from doing all of these different things. And so we went and held that line for them, and they, you know, I think that was the first time I've ever had to look back on my life. You know, from a starting point of being activism. You know, I started progressing after that. After I came to Spokane, my brother was the one who actually got me into it. He was like, "Yeah, you want to come down and protest with me?" You know, and what are we protesting? He said, "I don't know." So I know what the hell, you know. So we went down there, and I started jumping around doing the different things. You want to support people who are fighting for something worthwhile, you know. And if you don't have any direct, like, how do you support people? How do you support your fellow human? And so I started organizing and participating in a lot of different stuff, and then. You know, the Standing Rock thing happened. That was pretty big. I was working for a political action committee, organizing it was a statewide ballot initiative that we got passed, and our campaign was fairly successful, and they gave us a week off to do whatever. It was paid, so I went out to Standing Rock, and I got in one of the actions out there where they let the dogs loose on us, and they were, you know, they hit me, and you know, there was a lot of, they maced us and all this stuff while they were digging up dead bodies to put the pipeline in. And I got interviewed by a show called Democracy Now, which made me internet famous locally, because it was like the first time that they had been using attack dogs on us and all this stuff, and they became very violent at that point. At that time, they were doing ceremony consistently. You know, it wasn't just lockdown situations or non-violent direct action. It wasn't just protesting. It was ceremony. You know, ceremony continuously happening from all these different tribes' backgrounds, and the way that they took on a water blessing or a healing ceremony, and they would announce it and encourage all these indigenous people to take part and hold that space for protection of the water and protection of the land, and to unify with that consciousness of that is our intent, and our intent is this. It was over Labor Day weekend. We were going down to hold a water blessing at the original construction site for the Dakota Access Pipeline, and there was a temporary restraining order in place due to the cultural significance of where the proposed pipeline was supposed to be built. Meaning that there was graves that were in place of the pathway that was proposed, and the temporary restraining order was in place preventing them from constructing due to the cultural significance. And we went down to hold the water blessing. It was a group of maybe 300 of us, and they said, hey, those guys are they're building, they're bulldozing right now, right in that same place. And so we left that water blessing, and we marched in unity down to the fence.
Welcome here! You're not the attack! We're here! We're here! We're here!
It's important to note that the cultural significance were graves. The American government killed over 100 women and children when they were resisting the occupation of America on their land, and the American government murdered these women and children mainly, and where these people fell, they buried them in those same spots. And those are the graves that we're talking about. Those are the graves that they were bulldozing right in front of our eyes, and it was just a slap in the face, not only for that tribe, but for Native Americans all throughout the entire world, that this is just an unacceptable thing to take place.
Think of your children! Think of your future! Think of this planet. We forgive you. Time for you to go home. Think of your children. Think of the future. Think of the planet. We forgive you. We forgive you. It's not too late to go home. Think of your children. Think of the future. Think of this planet. Let's go.
Taking me right back down. Taking me right back down.
It is said that women are the leaders of resistance, and I find it true. You know, all over humanity, women have led the call for peace and the call for resistance. And yes, there's no change of that on Standing Rock. You know, to witness this woman in the middle of a chaos calmly walk past private security guards who had mace and handcuffs and attack dogs and, you know, pepper spray, and she walked right past them out of the chaos and calmly sat down in the path of a bulldozer on a big pile of dirt. And it was the most quiet power, the most reserved thing that I've ever witnessed in real life.
You're taking me right back down to sea, taking me right back down. You're taking me right back down to sea, taking me right back down. Well, you're taking me right back down to sea, taking me right back down. You're taking me right back down to sea, taking me right back down. Well,
I've been pepper sprayed before. I've also been maced. You know, I've been tear gassed. I even been tased. But that day was the first day that anybody ever let their dog loose on me. And so I decided to do something. Did some online fundraising, bought supplies, and came back 1 week later to help solidify the front line. It was unacceptable for this to be taking place in the 21st century on American soil to American citizens. You know, we are humanity, and we need to stand up for ourselves because this is our only planet. That second trip was mainly just to deliver supplies. During the 3 days spent during the second time, I got a letter from the tribe asking the city of Spokane to officially endorse the movement. They're protecting the water. The Spokane City Council passed a resolution supporting them officially 2 weeks later.
After doing so much online and through my local community, After Trump was elected into the presidency, I went down to the Backbone campaign, and they have a program called the Community Support Organizer, where you can work on anything that you find for yourself underneath their fiscal sponsorship. So you become basically a completely autonomous nonprofit group that works underneath them. And I focus right now. My main focus is on doing some healing encampment, where we're taking an intertribal approach at coming to a level playing field now, by transcending past historical trauma and intergenerational trauma and post-traumatic stress, and using intertribal approach at Native American medicine in order to help heal humanity here on a local level. Yeah, so this tattoo itself is this is the symbol. I mean, it depends on who you ask, but this is the symbol from the level of consciousness. In Hopi, you have 7 levels of consciousness, that we are the creator itself, realizing that we are the creator. So it's like this evolution, this eventual looping of creation, and we go through 7 different stages, 7 different levels of consciousness before we ultimately return back to the creator, learning that we are the creator in action with every one of our moves. And so this itself, if you see from one side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 before you reach the center. So here's 7 levels. And so there's 1, 2, and 3 sides. This is the first level, this is the second level, this is the third level, but this itself is our emergence into the 4th level of consciousness, which is the heart-centered thinking. And I think this really helps me to focus on what our purpose is here, is to evolve from an egotistical mindset into our heart-centered saka, which is our heart-centered consciousness, the 4th world, where we start to see each other as equals and not as separate. And hopefully we talk about the plant. The earth itself is a living being, right? It breathes. We don't see it, but it breathes. It's alive. Right. And if you think about it as being like almost a plant, it's a combination of earth and plants, because it's all these things. But if you think about the earth as being a plant, then the fruit of the earth, the fruit of the mineral, or fruit of the planet itself would be minerals. And so there's different minerals that you can use to harness specific frequencies. And this one is, these stones here are what I use now, and it's supposed to help you to focus your thoughts. It's very strong though, and I don't crystal gaze, but it's still something along those lines.
cora pejima Ekam seringa wo boy ku konwa Eno sapama one se cora pejima So open your way one se cora pejima Tam seringa wo boy ku konwa So open your way, once I could have paid him. It almost serving a boo cook on a pono tomato. Oh, no, it's a mama. Once I could have paid him. So open your way, once I could have paid him. Serving a boy cook on tomato. Oh, no, it's a mama. Once I could have paid him. So open your way, once I could have paid him. Serving a boy cook on in September. I could have paid him. So open your way, once I could have paid him. I'm a sailing a boy cook on Yo